Hello and welcome to all the students here. Today we start the chapter number 4, measurement of matter. Matter measurement. You know matter, everything that has mass and volume occupies space, that is called matter. So how to measure the matter? Here we'll study. In this lesson, we are going to study about the laws of chemical combination, atom, concept of atom, its size, mass, valency, molecular mass and the concept of mole. What is the concept of mole and radicals? In the previous standard, we have studied about the Dalton's atomic theory, Rutherford scattering experiment, Bohr's atomic model, about the atom, structure of atom, then molecular mass, atomic size. Now here we'll study about the laws of chemical combinations. In this composition, when the composition of substance changes during chemical change, on that basis, scientists verified through the experiment that when chemical reaction occurs, then there is a change in the compounds, formation of new compounds, and the composition also change. While doing this, they measure accurately the masses of the reactants before mixing and mass of the product after mixing, means after completion of reactions, and they have prepared the laws. Here in this lesson, we'll study about two laws of chemical combination. That is the law of conservation of mass, and second is the law of constant proportion. So very first, today we'll see the law of conservation of mass, and then after that, second video we'll study about law of constant proportion. So what is the law of conservation of matter or mass? Law of constant proportion is the second law. Law of conservation of matter or law of conservation of mass means law of constant of mass state that mass can neither be created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. Means whenever the chemical reaction take place, that time the mass will be same. Means mass of reactant is always equal to the mass of product. Now there is a one experiment activity. Through that activity, you will understand how the mass is constant in a chemical reaction. So please watch this video carefully. You understand the law of conservation of matter.
Learning by doing a lab activity to see what will happen to weight of reactants and products during a reaction. Click each tab to know more. The aim of this activity is to understand the change in mass before and after a chemical reaction or chemical change. The materials used in this lab activity are retort stand, test tube, conical flask, spring balance, rubber cork, thread, barium chloride, sodium sulfate, distilled water. Take a conical flask. Pour some distilled water in it. Add 2 grams of barium chloride to the distilled water. Now take a test tube. Pour some of distilled water in it. Now add 2 grams of sodium sulfate to the test tube. Hang the test tube into the flask carefully with the help of a thread without mixing the solutions. Close the flask with a rubber cork. Now place a retort stand on table. Take a spring balance and tie it to the retort stand. Weigh the flask with its contents and observe the weight. Now tilt and swirl the flask so that the solutions in the flask and the test tube get mixed. Once again, observe the weights. We have observed that the formation of white precipitate in the conical flask, which indicates the chemical reaction took place in it. Also, we have observed the weight of the flask and contents before mixing the solutions is equal to the weight of flask and contents after mixing the solutions. Finally, we learned that there is no change in mass before and after the chemical reaction when a chemical reaction takes place.
Yes, this is the law of conservation of matter. What is in the law of conservation of matter? You have seen in the activity. Before a reaction, when chemicals are mixed each other, means reactants. If you measure the mass of the different reactants before mixing it, if three reactants are there, two reactants are there, if their mass is 140 gram, after mixing their total mass, when reaction completed, new substance is formed, their mass is same, it will not change. So mass is a constant throughout the chemical reaction. So the mass of the reactant is always equal to the mass of the product. That is called as law of conservation of matter. So what is the statement? In a chemical reaction, the total mass of the reactant is same as the total mass of the product formed due to chemical reaction, and this is called as the law of conservation of matter. Now in the book also